Jackson adjusted the focus on his console, the star charts blooming in luminous detail on the screen before him. Beside him, his colleague Lucas scribbled notes on a digital pad, their ship humming quietly as it orbited a previously uncharted star system. "Look at this anomaly here, Lucas. You ever seen a pattern like that?" Jackson pointed at a cluster of stars that twisted in a spiral unusually close together. Lucas leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "That's odd. It almost looks artificial. Could be a gravitational pull from an unseen body, or somebody's been here before us, arranging the stars like garden paths," Jackson mused, half joking. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft ping from the communication panel. Anna, their mission commander, appeared on the hologram. Her expression was serious, a stark contrast to the relaxed banter between the two men. "Jackson, Lucas, good you're both there. We've picked up some irregular readings in your sector. Anything on your end that might explain it?" Jackson toggled through screens, sharing the strange spiral formation with Anna. "We were just discussing this. It doesn't match any natural formation we know." Anna's eyes flicked to the data streaming beside Jackson's image. "Keep an eye on it. This could be significant. I'm sending your coordinates to Dr. Hylan. He might shed some light on this." Lucas chuckled. "Or it might just be a glitch. Remember Sector 7G? Jackson laughed, recalling the incident where a supposed alien signal turned out to be a malfunction in their own equipment. "How could I forget? 2 days tracking a ghost." The light mood didn't last long. The console beeped aggressively this time, and new data flooded their screens. The anomaly was growing, changing. "Guys, this is no glitch," Jackson said, more to himself than to Lucas or Anna. The pattern was expanding, the stars shifting in real time, a dance choreographed by invisible hands. "Analyzing new data," Lucas muttered, fingers flying over his pad. This isn't random. There's a sequence, a repeating pattern." "Jackson, I think this might be a signal." Anna leaned closer to her screen, analyzing the patterns that Lucas highlighted. "A signal implies intent, and intent implies intelligence." "Jackson, Lucas, I want full scans, all channels. If someone is broadcasting, I want to know who, and I want to know why." The men nodded, each settling into their roles with the ease of long practice. Jackson manned the sensors, diving deeper into the spiral mystery, while Lucas coordinated with Anna, sending data to her and the other ships stationed around the quadrant. As they worked, a feeling of anticipation built within the cabin. The universe was vast and often silent in its secrets. Today, it seemed, one of those secrets was unfolding right before their eyes. Jackson felt a thrill run through him as he worked the controls, each movement precise. Lucas was already theorizing about the origins of the signal, his voice a steady background hum as Jackson focused. "If this is first contact, it's nothing like we expected," Lucas said, excitement creeping into his voice. "No grand declarations or ominous threats, just an invitation hidden in the stars." Jackson nodded, absorbed in his task. Whoever they are, they picked a beautiful way to say hello. As the chapter closes, the men continue their work, surrounded by stars and bathed in the soft glow of their screens, a galaxy of possibilities stretching out before them. The signal, whatever its message, waits patiently for them to unravel its mysteries. In the dimly lit cabin of the observation deck, Jackson and Lucas waited as the communication systems initiated contact with the unknown entity. The tension was palpable, but there was an undertone of excitement. First contact was what every space explorer dreamed of. Dr. Hylan, an expert in extraterrestrial communications, had joined them via a live holographic feed, his image flickering slightly as the ship orbited the anomaly. "Have you established a pattern in the signals yet?" Dr. Hylan asked, his voice crisp despite the distance. Lucas tapped at his console, bringing up the latest data. "It's repetitive but complex. Like a language, or at least that's the closest thing we can compare it to." Jackson interjected, "We're thinking it's intentional. Designed to catch our attention. Maybe a way to start a dialogue." Dr. Hylan nodded, intrigued. "Good. Proceed with a protocol for intelligent communication. Start with basic mathematics. See if there's a response." Lucas began inputting sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci series, simple algebraic equations, broadcasting them towards the source of the anomaly. The men watched the screens intently, waiting for any sign of acknowledgement. Minutes ticked by in silence, stretching long and thin. Suddenly, The cabin was filled with a series of soft chimes, a direct response from the anomaly. Each tone was distinct, resonating through the cabin like an echo of celestial music. "It's responding," Jackson said, voice filled with, "It's actually responding." Dr. Halen's eyes were wide, his usual composure slipping. "Continue the communication. See if you can establish a pattern in their responses." The exchange went on, the ship's computer rapidly translating their messages into sound and back again. The responses from the anomaly became quicker, more intricate. "This is remarkable," Lucas breathed out, his hands moving over the controls automatically. "It's like it's learning, adapting to our methods." Jackson nodded, his focus split between the communication protocol and the readouts showing their position relative to the anomaly. "We need to maintain a safe distance, just in case." As they adjusted the ship's orbit, the anomaly's responses grew even more structured. It was as if a bridge was being built between them, one mathematical proof at a time. Dr. Hylin was recording everything, his earlier excitement now sharpened into keen focus. "We might be witnessing the first ever interstellar conversation based purely on mathematics. This could change everything we know about communication." The dialogue with the unknown stretched on, hours melding into one another as stars passed by outside the observation windows. The anomaly's signals were almost playful now, dancing around the mathematical concepts they sent. Lucas laughed, a sound of pure joy. "It's like playing chess with a ghost. Every move we make, it counters with something unexpected." Jackson grinned, feeling the weight of the moment. "Guess we're in the right place at the right time, huh?" As the chapter closed, the two men continued their historic interaction, a mix of professional rigor and childlike wonder driving them forward. They were pioneers on the digital frontier, speaking to the stars. Lucas and Jackson huddled over the main console, their previous excitement now tinged with a hint of concern. The signals from the anomaly had abruptly changed, their structured patterns dissolving into chaotic bursts of data. It was as if their interstellar correspondent had suddenly started shouting. "What's happening?" Jackson's brow furrowed as he tried to recalibrate the sensors. It was all going so smoothly. Lucas shook his head, his hands flying over the control panel. "I don't know. It's like we hit a nerve, or maybe it's a misunderstanding." Dr. Hylin, still connected via hologram, chimed in with a note of caution in his voice. "You might have transmitted something that was interpreted as a threat. Remember, we don't fully understand their method of communication. What's benign to us could be aggressive to them." "Let's backtrack," Jackson suggested. "Revisit our last few transmissions. See if we can isolate the trigger." Together, they pored over the transmitted data, tracing their communications back to the moment the anomaly's responses had shifted. Lucas highlighted a series of equations related to energy and matter conversion, standard scientific queries from their perspective. "Maybe this." Lucas pointed at the screen. "If they interpret energy differently, this could have seemed hostile." Jackson nodded, his gaze fixed on the data. "Okay, let's send an apology. In math, we'll scale back to basic arithmetic, non-threatening stuff." Lucas began to code the new message, reducing their mathematical language to its most fundamental elements. As they sent out the apology, the cabin filled with a tense silence, both men watching the screens for any change in the anomaly's output. Minutes passed before the anomaly responded. The chaotic data streams began to slow, resuming their earlier, more rhythmic pattern, though now with a noticeable hesitation. "It's calming down," Jackson observed, a relieved sigh escaping him. "Looks like we're back on track." Dr. Halen's image nodded, his relief evident even through the digital flicker. "Good work. But be more cautious moving forward. We're treading new ground here. Misunderstandings are bound to happen." Jackson and Lucas agreed, both acutely aware of the delicate nature of their task. They decided to end the day's communications on that cautious note, giving both themselves and the anomaly a chance to reset. "Tomorrow we start fresh," Lucas said, shutting down the communication array. "And maybe stick to the basics a bit longer, huh?" "Agreed," Jackson replied, his mind already racing with possibilities. "We're learning. It's learning. There's a common ground here. We just have to find it." As they left the control room, their steps were lighter, the weight of potential conflict lifted. The universe was vast and strange, filled with unknowns, but they were here to bridge that vastness, one careful message at a time. In the quiet of the ship's night cycle, Jackson looked out at the stars, their distant light a silent chorus to the drama unfolding aboard the ship. Tomorrow, they would continue the conversation, and perhaps inch closer to understanding the minds behind the mysterious signals. The low hum of the ship's engines provided a constant backdrop as Jackson and Lucas continued their duties. After the recent miscommunication with the anomaly, a period of routine maintenance offered a much-needed break. The two men worked in tandem, their familiarity with the ship's systems evident in their efficient teamwork. "Check the flux capacitors," Jackson asked, floating over to the engineering bay with a tool belt clutched in one hand. "Already on it," Lucas replied from inside the panel he was rewiring. "Though I don't think our extraterrestrial friends care much about our engine efficiency." Jackson chuckled as he joined Lucas, handing him a sonic wrench. "Maybe not, but I'd hate for us to be stuck here if they decide to stop talking." As they worked, the conversation turned to the psychological toll of space travel. Being light years away from Earth, isolated from everything familiar, was a constant pressure. "You ever miss it?" Lucas asked, his voice muffled by the panel. "All the time," Jackson admitted, tightening a bolt. "Especially the little things. Fresh air, real gravity, an honest pint." Lucas nodded in agreement. "Yeah, synthetic ale just doesn't cut it." Their banter was interrupted by a call from Dr. Hyland. His hologram flickered to life, a serious expression on his face. "Gentlemen, how's the ship holding up?" "All systems green," Jackson reported, closing his toolkit with a snap. "What's the word from your end?" "There's been a development," Dr. Hyland said, his tone cautious. "The signals from the anomaly have changed again. They're more complex, denser. It's like they're evolving." Jackson exchanged a look with Lucas. "Evolving? Are you saying they're adapting to us?" "It's possible," Dr. Hyland replied. "We might be dealing with a form of intelligence that's learning from us, maybe even faster than we're learning from it." The implication hung in the air, a silent acknowledgement of their situation's gravity. "We need to step up our game then," Lucas suggested, his mind racing with the possibilities. "Maybe introduce some new variables, see how they react." "Agreed," Dr. Hyland nodded. "I'll send you some new protocols. Let's keep this conversation going, but stay alert. We're in uncharted territory." After the call, Jackson and Lucas prepared to implement the new communication protocols. As they set up the necessary equipment, their discussion shifted to strategies. "What if we tried music?" Lucas proposed, recalibrating a transmitter. "It's mathematical, structured. Might be easier for them to understand than we thought." Jackson was intrigued. "Music as a universal language, huh? I like it. Let's cue up some classical, some jazz, see if that sparks anything new." The remainder of their day was spent in a flurry of activity, broadcasting everything from Beethoven to Coltrane into the void. Each melody was met with silence, but the men kept at it, hopeful for any sign of recognition. As they wrapped up, Lucas turned to Jackson, his expression thoughtful. "You think they're really out there, understanding us?" Jackson looked back at the stars, their distant light a tapestry of unanswered questions. "I hope so, Lucas. I really do." They left the control room together, the first notes of a symphony trailing behind them, a sonic handshake reaching across the cosmos. In the silence of space, their efforts were a testament to their determination, a signal of their presence in the vast universe. Lucas and Jackson sat in the dimly lit observation lounge, their eyes fixed on a screen displaying the latest data from the anomaly. The recent switch to using musical patterns as communication method had yet to yield a response, and the mood was contemplative. "Do you think they're even capable of understanding music?" Lucas mused, tapping his fingers against his mug of coffee. Jackson shrugged, his gaze not leaving the screen. "Maybe, maybe not. But it's worth a try. Music might not be universal, but it's another form of pattern. It has structure, rhythm, mathematics." Lucas nodded, sipping his coffee. "True. I guess if they're learning from us, we might as well throw everything we've got at them." The silence that followed was filled with the soft hum of the ship. Both men were deep in thought, considering the implications of their unique situation. "I've been thinking," Jackson finally said, turning to face Lucas. "This whole thing communicating with something, or someone unknown, it's kind of like forming a relationship, isn't it? Starting with basics, moving to more complex interactions." Lucas laughed softly. "You mean first we send over a mathematical pickup line, and now we're serenading them? What's next? Dinner and a movie?" Jackson chuckled. "Exactly. But think about it. With every step, we're getting closer to understanding them. Building trust." Lucas nodded, more seriously this time. It's a delicate dance. We're out here, reaching across the void, hoping they'll meet us halfway. The conversation drifted to past experiences, with each man sharing stories of forming bonds under unusual circumstances, both on Earth and during their space missions. It's not just about the words or the music or the math, Jackson said thoughtfully. It's about intention, about reaching out, trying to connect. Lucas agreed, his tone reflective. And every response we get, even if it's not what we expect, it's a step forward. Helps us recalibrate, try a different approach. The dialogue was interrupted by a beep from the console. A new pattern of signals was coming in, different from before. Both men leaned forward, suddenly alert. This could be it, Lucas whispered as they watched the data stream in, complex and beautiful. Jackson initiated the recording protocol. Every bit of data is precious. Might tell us what they think of our latest symphony. As they analyzed the incoming signals, the earlier tension dissipated, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. They were in this together, a team united by their quest for understanding. Look at this sequence, Lucas pointed out, his excitement palpable. It's mirroring our harmonic progression. They're responding to the music. Jackson couldn't help but smile, relief and joy mingling in his expression. So, they do appreciate good music. The chapter concluded with the men continuing their work, buoyed by the new development. Their relationship with the unknown had deepened, marked by mutual effort and a burgeoning sense of connection. The night's work would be long, but neither man minded. They were no longer just observers and broadcasters. They were participants in a dialogue stretching across the stars. The control room was abuzz with activity as Jackson and Lucas monitored the new and increasingly complex patterns emerging from the anomaly. Their previous success with musical communication had opened a floodgate of interactions, and each transmission was more intricate than the last. Have you noticed the shifts in frequency here? Lucas pointed at the screen, where lines of data cascaded down. It's almost like they're trying to adjust to our auditory range more precisely. Jackson, adjusting the audio filters, nodded. It's as if they're fine-tuning the conversation. But why this sudden change? Before Lucas could reply, Dr. Halen's hologram flickered into existence beside them. His usual calm demeanor was tinged with urgency. Gentlemen, we have a situation. Monitoring stations across the fleet are picking up unusual energy signatures. It seems our communications have been intercepted. Jackson straightened, his hand pausing over the console. Intercepted? By who? Another alien civilization. It's possible, Dr. Hyland confirmed. We're not sure yet, but it seems like our musical dialogue has attracted more attention than we anticipated. Lucas grimaced. So, what's the plan? Do we go silent, or do we keep broadcasting? Dr. Hyland considered this for a moment. Continue your transmissions, but increase security measures. We need to understand who else is listening and what their intentions might be. Jackson turned back to the console, his fingers moving deftly to enhance their encryption protocols. Lucas, let's double-check all incoming and outgoing signals. Filter out anything that doesn't match the established pattern of communication. Lucas nodded, diving into the data. Got it. We'll keep the line open, but guarded. The two worked in concert, their actions a well-rehearsed dance of checks and balances. As they secured their systems, the anomaly's signals continued to evolve, becoming more harmonious and seemingly responsive to the human adjustments. This is unprecedented, Lucas muttered, on his voice despite the tension. They're adapting to us as we adapt to them. It's like watching evolution in real time. Jackson couldn't help but agree. It's fascinating and terrifying at the same time. To think that our attempt at making contact might spark an interstellar incident. Dr. Halen's image nodded solemnly. That's why we need to tread carefully. Any misstep could be misinterpreted, not just by our original contact, but by whoever else is out there. As the hours passed, the team managed to isolate several foreign signatures embedded within the anomaly's signals. Each was subtly different, hinting at multiple observers. Looks like we've got quite the audience, Jackson observed, his voice low. Lucas, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood. Well, we always wanted our work to get more exposure. Just didn't think it would be on a cosmic scale. Dr. Hyland chuckled dryly. Just make sure it's the right kind of exposure. We don't want to start a galactic war with a misfired symphony. The chapter closed with the team fully engaged in their dual task, continuing their groundbreaking communication efforts while safeguarding against potential threats. The stakes were high, but so was their commitment to navigating the delicate intricacies of interstellar diplomacy. They were pioneers on a new frontier where every note and every data packet could tip the balance of cosmic relations. In the depths of space, aboard their floating laboratory, Jackson and Lucas faced the complex task of deciphering multiple alien communications, now aware of the vast audience their initial contact had garnered. The control room was alive with a glow of monitors displaying streams of data from the anomaly and the new signals interlacing with them. Jackson leaned over a console, his eyes tracing the patterns on the screen. See this here? This segment repeats every fourth transmission. It's like a signature. Lucas, who had been cross-referencing data from their security filters, looked up. A signature? Like a calling card from our new observers. Exactly, Jackson confirmed. Each one is different, distinct. It could be a way to identify themselves, a part of interstellar etiquette we're just stumbling upon. Dr. Hylin, who had been remotely monitoring their progress, chimed in via hologram. If that's true, then we should respond in kind. Acknowledge each signal individually. It might be seen as a gesture of goodwill. Lucas nodded thoughtfully. Acknowledgement without engagement. We show them we see them, but keep the details vague. Jackson began programming the response sequences, each tailored to match the nuances of the incoming signatures. It's like diplomatic chess, he mused, his hands deft in their task. Acknowledging their moves without giving away our strategy. The two worked in sync, a silent agreement between them that the gravity of their task required precision and careful consideration. As they sent out the tailored acknowledgments, a new pattern emerged in the incoming data. The tones were softer, the rhythm less aggressive. It's working, Lucas breathed, a slight smile breaking through his focus. They're toning down their approach. That's one hurdle crossed, Jackson said, relief palpable in his voice. Now let's hope they're all just curious and not looking for a cosmic showdown. As the hours stretched into the ship's night cycle, the constant stream of communications began to slow, signaling that their message had been received and perhaps understood. The tension that had built up started to dissipate, leaving room for cautious optimism. Lucas stretched, his back popping softly in the quiet of the control room. Think we'll ever get to meet them? Face to face. Jackson chuckled, the sound soft in the hushed atmosphere. I'd say we're meeting them right now, in a way. Maybe not face to face, but mind to mind. And that's got to count for something. Their conversation drifted to the possibilities of future interactions, each scenario more hopeful than the last. Despite the complexities and potential dangers, the fundamental desire to connect, to understand and be understood, remained at the heart of their mission. Dr. Halen's hologram flickered slightly, drawing their attention. Gentlemen, today was a step forward. Let's keep the momentum. Tomorrow, we try to deepen the dialogue, see if we can turn these cautious exchanges into a meaningful conversation. The chapter closed with Jackson and Lucas reviewing the day's data one last time, their spirits buoyed by the success of their diplomatic efforts. They were far from home, navigating uncharted waters, but they were not without direction. With each cautious step forward, they were mapping the stars not just with data, but with diplomacy and unity. The observation deck was quiet, save for the software of computers and the occasional muted beep from the communication console. Jackson and Lucas, now accustomed to the rhythm of their interstellar dialogue, sat before a bank of screens, each displaying different facets of the data streams they were managing. Jackson glanced at Lucas, who was deeply focused on analyzing the latest patterns. You know, when we started this, I never imagined we'd get this far. Lucas looked up, a slight grin on his face. From musical messages to diplomatic codes, feels like we've been doing this for years, not weeks. The console beeped loudly, interrupting their brief respite. A new message had come through, more complex and elaborate than any before. Jackson leaned in, parsing the information with practiced eyes. Looks like they're getting comfortable with us. This one's almost verbose. Lucas joined him, his eyes scanning the data. Verbose is good. It means they trust us enough to reveal more. Maybe we're finally breaking through the real barriers. Dr. Halen's hologram flickered into existence beside them, his face wearing a mixture of excitement and caution. I see the new data. This is excellent progress. But remember, every piece of information is a piece of the puzzle. We need to be careful with how we respond. Jackson nodded, already drafting a response in his mind. We'll keep it conservative. Acknowledge their message, mirror their structure, but hold back just enough. As they crafted their reply, The weight of their responsibility was palpable. They were not just scientists or explorers now. They were diplomats crafting the foundation of an interstellar relationship. Lucas typed out the sequence, then paused before sending. You think they understand what's at stake here? The potential for a real exchange of ideas and culture. Jackson considered the question, his gaze drifting to the star-studded blackness beyond the ship. I think they do. Or at least, they're as curious and hopeful as we are. With a final nod from both, Lucas sent their message. The room was silent for a moment, the tension of anticipation hanging heavy. Then, the anomaly responded. Their message was mirrored back, altered slightly, an echo of their own but with a new layer of complexity, a sign of deepening communication and understanding. It's a conversation now, not just a series of exchanges, Jackson said, broad smile spreading across his face. It's evolving into something more, something real. Lucas laughed, the sound rich with relief and satisfaction. And to think, it started with us wondering if they could even understand our math. The chapter wound down with the two men planning their next steps. They discussed potential scientific collaborations, cultural exchanges, even the distant possibility of a physical meeting place in the neutral void of space. Dr. Hylin, his image starting to fade as the connection waned, left them with parting words. You've done well, both of you. Continue this path, and who knows where it might lead us. Humanity may have counterattacked alien warfleets, ending up in Overkill, but this time we've built a bridge instead of burning one. As the hologram disappeared, Jackson and Lucas turned back to their consoles, their mission clear and their spirits high. They were on the frontier of a new dawn, not just for themselves or humanity, but for a potential union of civilizations across the cosmos. The future was uncertain, but for now, it was bright with a promise of uncharted possibilities.